Hi everyone, I'm Megan North and I am the guest on the Prosperity Show with Prosper. And we are going to talk all things how the corporate world has transpired and blended into my spirituality and my spiritual world. I hope you enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a truly remarkable guest whose journey is a blend of corporate prowess and spiritual wisdom. Now, Megan, how are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you, Prosper. How are you?
Well, the pleasure is all mine for meeting you. I mean, I've been telling you I'm a little bit starstruck today based on, your history and where you are involved, and your work. So having you on the show today is like, wow.
Thank
Really
you very
excited.
much. I'm just as excited to be here as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, obviously, I know you're being humble, but I walked past where they have a statue of Megan North out there, and definitely, we will be bowing to that. But for those that are watching this and meeting Megan for the very first time, let me take you out of that digital rock you've been hiding under. Now, with over 20 years of experience, Megan has actually coached and mentored over 10,000 leaders and professionals, helping them find the balance and wellness in both their careers and personal lives. Now, whether she's sitting in a boardroom or guiding corporate leaders or offering angel card readings and spiritual healing to them, Megan seamlessly combines the practical with the mystical. And we're going to be finding out all about that today, and her own personal transformation from a corporate high flyer to a wellness advocate is also an inspiring and powerful tale that we're going to be unraveling here on the Online Prosperity Show. So if you're seeking to realign your life with purpose and health, I think you're in for a treat. So Megan, thank you once again for joining us on the show today, and let's just dive in. Now, you've got an impressive background, and I even learned a new name word today. I was telling you about it, clear, what's that again? Clear.
Clairaudient.
Absolutely, you got that. I was trying and I was just thinking, oh my God, I hope I'm not going to be mincing my words. So tell us a little bit about your sort of corporate leadership background that you have blended with spiritual healing.
Yeah. Okay. So I was in the corporate world in HR for over 20 years. And through that time, I am definitely a people person. Sometimes you do find people in HR that aren't, but I'm definitely a people. And so I think that comes from being the youngest of six children and growing up with some very older siblings. So I always say that I grew up in an adult world. So I was always very good at communicating. I always knew how to speak to people at my age or people that were older or younger. And so I think that took me into the world of HR, and that really helped me because I could be in a meeting room with executives, but also employees, and I didn't really have an issue with being able to, sort of fluidly move in and out of conversations according to who I was talking to. So that was my 20-year career in HR. Loved it. I love people. I think people are fascinating. People are so fascinating. And you would know this having this show. Like it's incredible just being able to learn about people. And so I think I've always been open to spirituality. Before my mum passed away, I got to ask her, did I have very many imaginary friends? And she said, you were talking to imaginary friends all the time as a child. But I realize now that I think that was actually spirits and my guides and ancestors who had passed over. I think as a child, I was already connected into them. And so I used to do a lot of work myself from a healing perspective. So I started on my healing journey probably about 30 years ago in my early 20s. I've just turned 50 now. And I was just fascinated to be able to explore, why am I who I am. Like, what is it? Why have I been created the way that I have? And so that sort of has taken me on a journey of learning more about myself, and then from an ancestral point of view, and then from a spiritual point of view. And over the years, I've just learned more and more. So healings, angel card readings, astrology, different healing modalities, all of those sort of things. And probably about 10 years ago, I started to play with oracle cards. They're like tarot cards, but a little bit different, but the concept is the same. And I started playing with cards, and I could read the cards very well. And I started to get messages in my ear. I was sort of thinking, hang on a minute, did I just think that, or did I imagine that? And so the messages started to come through very clearly. And a few years prior to that, I'd actually stopped drinking. So for me, the cleaner I got, the better I was at all of the messages that were coming through and the way that I could connect spiritually. And so I started playing with cards, and I would do card readings for friends. And then about 8 years ago, I thought, actually, someone said to me, people should pay you to do this. You should earn money doing this. I was like, okay. So I started to get clients with my readings, and then I learned a healing modality called Theta Healing. So Theta, Theta Healing, that works with the theta brainwave. And so I started my spiritual healing business while I was still working in the corporate world. And it took me a few years to actually talk about that side of me when I was working in the corporate space. But I learned to tune in and to know when I could talk to someone and say, oh, did you know I have this side to me? And so then it started to become more prevalent. Then people that I worked with would say, can I book in for a reading? So a lot of the clients that I had in my business were actually people that I was working with on a day-to-day basis in corporate. Obviously, the trust was there, and it was a cone of silence. I would never speak about anyone being a client unless they were happy to talk about it. And so that has sort of evolved over the last few years. And then 3 years ago, I decided to step out of the corporate space from a corporate HR role and start my business from a coaching perspective, because I basically coached and mentored people every single day of my career. It's just natural for me. I think it's because of that curiosity. I'm so fascinated by people that I've got an innate sense to be able to sort of get the best out of people, I suppose, because I genuinely care about people. Like I actually genuinely care. So I think that helps me as a coach as well, because people feel trusted very quickly. So over the last 3 years, I've built my business, but I was still straddling these two worlds. I had this spiritual healing business, and then I had a coaching, wellness, mental health sort of business. And I realized that actually I needed to combine them. I actually needed to start coming out in the world as me, as holistically, that actually I do all of this. So I speak, I'm a mental health advocate, but I'm also an oracle card reader and a spiritual healer and a HR consultant. So I got the courage to do that earlier this year and did a full rebrand, and the name megannorth.com was available, which was a bit shocking because, a lot of people Google their name and it's not available, but it was. So I sort of took that as it being a sign. So that's the journey that I've been on in the last 6 months. It's been incredible just to be able to combine all of that. And I'm also very respectful in the sense of sometimes I'll tell people that I do all of this, and then they'll say, oh, I don't believe in the spiritual side of things. And I'm okay with that. I'm not here to convert you. If that's not your thing, then fine, we won't talk about it. I don't sort of feel like then, oh my gosh, I've got to convert these people or make them realize why it's so amazing. That's not my job. So the clairaudient part comes in a lot. So when I'm doing a healing or a reading particularly, I start to get messages and it's very clear. And when I'm doing a reading in particular with a client, I'll ask them, I'll say to them, I'm going to continue to ask you, does that make sense? Because I start to say things that I have no idea what I'm saying because I'm kind of channeling. And if I thought about it logically, I'd be thinking, I can't ask them that, or I can't tell them that. But actually, I just have to trust. And so I'm constantly asking, does that make sense? And the answer is always yes, you're spot on. That's exactly. And so it's actually quite nice too, because at the end of doing healing work, I don't feel depleted because I'm not really taking on what I'm saying. It's not like I'm sitting there and taking on all their energy. I'm not sitting there and taking on, if I'm working with someone with trauma or a poor experience that they've had as a child or something that they're going through. I feel, in a way, it's interesting. It's already like an inbuilt defense mechanism, I guess, for me, that actually once I've finished with the client, I'll cleanse the space. I've got a candle going at the moment to open the space for our conversation, but I'll blow the candle out and then I close that down. And so it's a really nice way of me being able to protect my energy as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us through that journey. Obviously, this is Megan speaking. It wasn't inspired, right? I'm just wanting to check where we are with this now.
Yes, it was Megan speaking. Yes, yes. Yes.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, you did mention earlier on, you grew up around older siblings and, you were, the last of six, if I got that
Yes.
correct. Now, is it just you within the family that has this talent or gift, or is this also prevalent within other members of the family?
I think it is just me. I have a feeling that there's probably a couple of siblings that may be very tuned into their intuition, but I don't think that they act on it in the sense of I'll call them and they'll say, oh, I was just thinking about you, or vice versa. And that's our intuition, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. Our intuition is amazing. Our intuition is our gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, it usually isn't. And that's our intuition talking to us. But no, I am definitely, out of my siblings, the one that has these very strong spiritual connection. But then I do have a lot of nieces and nephews, and then they're all having children as well. And a couple of my great nieces in particular are very tuned in and very they're very open to this as well. So as even just as little children, they're sort of saying things that you think, oh wow, okay, yep, you're tuned in. So maybe it's the generation that's coming through that's probably going to be as gifted as what I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously when you're around other people and maybe, they hearing you say certain things, I just wanted to see if, you're not the one that sits right at the end of the table and everybody just doesn't understand Megan, at family
No,
gatherings and things of that nature. But also
no.
when you were growing up, you did mention obviously having these imaginary friends and things of that nature. Was that not because the siblings had already grown up and they're already doing things with their other friends that you were now just relegated to maybe entertain yourself at that particular moment?
In a sense, I think not. Up until I was 10, I grew up in Sydney and we're all in the same household. So there was me, my parents, and the other five. My eldest brother had moved out because he was about to get married. So there's 17 years difference between myself and the eldest. And then there's 8 years difference between me and the next one and next sibling. So but at the age of 10, because my parents were from Wollongong, which is down on the south coast, and my dad worked on the railway and he got a promotion. And so dad took the promotion. And so we moved to Wollongong, but it was only me that went. So all my other siblings stayed in Sydney. So for me, that was actually something that I've had to do a lot of work on because it was quite difficult. It was a huge difference for me to go from living in a big house with so many of everyone and then to just being me, mum and dad. Like I almost felt like an only child. It was because it was such a difference of living. And so I think at that time, definitely then there was a lot of time for me to have sort of self-reflection, be on my own. My mum used to joke and say that she should have had another couple of children after me because she always felt that I was on my own. Um, So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I think that there was times where I could just sit and just have time to myself, and that probably did enhance those experiences, definitely.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, sorry, you did mention that your mom did pass, but was there any sort of support? Because I can only imagine when, kids are experiencing or going through certain things, our parents would want, them to at least behave like any other normal kid would be. But, were the parents a little bit supportive of these experiences, or were they just relegating them to just, hey, you go read a book or something, or?
No, I mean, I was very close to my mum and dad. And like I had a beautiful relationship with them. As I got older, I think my mum drove me just as crazy as I drove her, I'm sure. But I don't feel that I was as open with them about all these gifts that I had. And interestingly, so yeah, my mum did pass away 10 years ago. And she gave me the biggest gift that anybody could ever give you from a spiritual sense. And I was in the room after she'd passed away. So I didn't want to be there when she passed away. I'd made that choice, but I went in after. And there was a moment where I actually physically experienced her soul leaving her body. And I experienced it, and it was a gift that she gave me, because once that happened, then my spiritual senses really cracked open, as I say. And then my dad was still around for 2 years and 2 months. He lasted without her because they had been together 62 years when she passed away. So bless him, he lasted that long. But it was interesting because then my relationship with my dad completely changed, because then it was just when I'd go to see him, it was dad. It was not mum and dad, it was just dad. And so I feel like my relationship with him shifted over those couple of years because we had so much time, just he and I. And then I learned from having conversations with him that he was actually quite open to this. He was a Catholic man. We never really spoke about this sort of stuff, but I just felt like I could then talk to him about this. So when he passed, I talked him through it, told him what would happen. He and I had a lot of conversations about it, and it was almost like giving him permission to go because he missed mum so much. So it was a really interesting process through that time of deep grief, but I've got so much gratitude for them as well, and all the support that they gave me.
Absolutely. That's such a beautiful
Yeah.
piece there, and nicely put. Now, you did highlight your interest in people, and I'm supposing the people that you're talking about obviously sound like the nicest human beings, known to men. But have you seen real people? Like, what's there to like about people?
Oh gosh, their stories, what they're interested in, where they've come from, what they do, like everything. Like, I don't know. I'm fascinated by who someone is and what's their story, and one of the biggest things, what can I learn from them? What can they say to me that I think, oh, I love having deep, rich conversations with people where I walk away and think, wow, I've never thought of it this way, or I've never imagined that that could be possible. And I think I just am in awe of people, because we're all individuals, we're all beautiful, we've all got a beautiful heart, and I just think that we all have so much to share. So I try to look for the best in everybody, because why wouldn't you? I don't want to spend my energy on not liking someone or trying to find fault in someone. I want to spend my energy learning from that person and being in their presence.
Absolutely. And obviously, that is truly evident in the amount of people that you've actually supported in business. I mean, right now we've got the figure of over 10,000 individuals. That's a lot of eyes, that you need to have had, concentrating and looking, and you also being able to help them be, do, and have
Yeah.
happier existence, and it's quite incredible. Now, what do you find the most rewarding about helping others actually find balance and wellness in their lives?
Oh, I love being, I feel it's a huge privilege to work with people. So if clients come to me, they have a reading or a healing or they do some coaching, I feel that I'm in a position of privilege because they trust me and that they want me to be on their journey. So I love being on people's journeys and watching them grow and having their own aha moments and seeing that transition of they were going down this path, but actually something has clicked in the work that we've done, and now they've gone down that path and it's been exactly where they needed to be. So the joy for me is seeing the transition and the change and the transformation in people, and for me being allowed to be part of that journey with them.
Mm. And you did mention, because obviously when you come to sort of the corporate environment, everything is either a standard or a system, and it is how we've always done it around here. And then if you then introduce maybe a sprinkle of spirituality, people are probably like, "Oh, okay, this is too woo woo," and
Woohoo! Yeah.
you know what I mean? So what do you would you say maybe some of the biggest obstacles that you would have faced, especially when you're trying to get these corporate types aligned with, the actual wellness and spirituality and everything else in between?
I think reading the room and reading my audience is a big thing. So, as I said, I'm not here to try to convert people to the woohoo side. Just because I believe in it, it doesn't mean everybody else has to. So, and I'm really serious about that because I have a friend who, someone in my family that does not believe in the angel card readings that I do, and she thinks that they're like devilish, and so I just don't talk to her about it. Because why would I? Why would I want to trigger a conversation that actually she feels really uncomfortable about, and I do as well? Like, it's just not worth it. So I think it's about tuning in, knowing my audience, and knowing, I don't know, it's just sort of feeling what can you talk about. And if you go down and say one thing and you get that reaction from everyone, like, whoa, that's a bit much. Okay, well, I'll tone it back. But I also think that what I try to do is don't overcomplicate things. So if you're on a transformation journey, or if you need some coaching or something is going on with your mental health, it's not about us working on something or me trying to transform your whole life in one session, or your whole life in a hour meeting. It's about what's the one thing that you can take away with today that may actually help you. So take a deep breath if you feel stressed. That can just completely change someone's day. If you're making a cup of tea and you're feeling stressed at home because you've got a lot of work on, walk outside while the kettle's boiling, stand in the sun or the rain or however it is, and then come back a minute later and your whole day will be different. So I think it's just about not trying to do everything all at once and me trying to convince people. I'm very mindful of saying that I don't want to teach something. I'd like to share something because I feel like it has a different energy. And so just because something works for me or something has worked for 10 clients, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing for the 11th client, or it doesn't mean it's right for the corporate people in the boardroom. It's just, I don't know, innately I sort of know and feel the way that I can go. But if I'm with a group that are into the woohooey stuff, then it's a different approach that I can take. So I think it's just, I don't know, I just want to share the knowledge and share what I've learned. And if it helps one person in a day, then fantastic. Like, wow.
You know what? I quite like that because I think, Megan, you've actually found your own true north,
Mm-hmm.
literally, because that blend in and of itself, there's way too many extremes on either end. There's the proper prim corporate type that is, everything has to be done in a certain way. And then there's also the spiritual side where it's sages and crystals and everything else that comes along with it. But
Yeah.
you've actually then put that all together? I mean, you did allude to a candle, which obviously signifies whatever it is, but just looking at your demeanor and the person you are, you're approachable for all the other aspects, which makes it very unique. Some people would be too rigid in the corporate sense that they're unapproachable, whereas other people are way too in the other end, you know what I mean? So how have you found this blend, in terms of people really accepting it, and the way you can shift between both conversations? Because, with just how we're speaking, we going, to the spiritual side, and we're coming back to the corporate side, and you seem to be, gliding in and out of these conversations easily.
I think it's just being comfortable with who I am, and this is who I am. So you accept me for who I am, and I'm not going to change for anybody. So I'm not going to try to fit into who I think people want me to be. And I think that that's one of the things on social media in particular, is that I'm very mindful of the fact that sometimes I might say something and someone doesn't believe in it. But you know what? That's okay, because I was told by one of my mentors over the last 18 months, I've been trained as a keynote speaker. And my mentor, Sam Cawthorn, said to me, he said, if you're not getting people on social media that are really not liking what you're saying, then you're not disrupting enough. And I thought, oh, isn't that an interesting thing? Because often people who don't like what you're saying or feel uncomfortable about what you're saying can sometimes mean because you're being disruptive, but in a good way. I'm not talking about saying horrible things and people taking it the wrong way, but I'm just saying that when we feel triggered internally by something that feels uncomfortable, it's often because we're about to transform, and that can feel uncomfortable. So we feel negative against something, or we can think, oh no, that's not for me. And so I think I just sit comfortably in who I am. And this year in particular, merging the two businesses and sort of just showing up as my name, I think I feel like I've nailed it, in the sense of I can just sit and this is who I am. And you don't need to like me. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help people and to transform their lives. And if I make someone's day better, fantastic. And I think it's just because I'm comfortable with that.
Absolutely. And obviously your experience in, corporate, and also in the other spiritual side, helps you to actually able to navigate so many aspects that are bothering people. I mean, you do conduct workshops on, first of all, mental health and well-being, right? And
Yep.
obviously this would have a significant impact on people, because some people are not understanding what's actually happening around them and who they're becoming, and they're looking for answers that, are in a world that no longer exists, and maybe it's a spiritual answer that needs to obviously come for them, whereas other people are obviously in that old spiritual side, and maybe it's a business answer that they require, or like you say, the people
Yeah.
sort of perspective and things of that nature. So what are some of the takeaways that people can get from your programs that obviously you'd like to highlight to the people that might want to take them?
So I run this workshop, and it's like practical tools and strategies of mental health and well-being. So it came out of the CIO of Boral at the time. I knew she was working for Boral, and she had her team that were about to go through a very stressful project. And so she asked me to design a program for them. And so what it was we did 30-minute session for 4 weeks, like just one 30-minute session over 4 weeks. So I just split it into 4 sessions, which was really good. We talked about mental health. We talked about physical health, including nutrition. We talked about sleep and resilience and balance. And so each week we just talked about what are the practical things that you can do first for your mental health. So I taught them how to do a deep conscious breath. So that, as I said before, if you're sitting and you're looking at your emails, taking that one breath can completely reset your brain and just make you look at things differently. And from a physical point of view, I talked about, if you are going to buy your lunch for the day, particularly if you're going into the office, go and buy your lunch from somewhere that's the furthest away from the office. So you're actually walking for, say, 10 minutes to get your lunch. Then you get your lunch and you come back, as opposed to often, people would just, if they're in an office building, duck downstairs because it's the quickest way. So it's about practically getting those little moments in your day of how can you move more? How can you step away from your screen? How can you just reset your brain? For me, like I'm sitting here, I've got a beautiful view out there. So often, I'll take my glasses off and I'll just take a moment and just look outside, take a breath, and then to come back to my desk, my screen, and I feel completely renewed because it's just taken me a few seconds. And I think what happens when we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling, oh my gosh, I've got so much on, I've got so many emails, I'm so busy. We think that the answer or what is going to, or how is going to help us when, oh, I need to meditate for an hour and I need to exercise for 2 hours and I need to do this and this. No, if you don't have the time, like a simple deep breath can really make a change. If you can take a quick walk downstairs or out your front door and then come back, that can completely change your day. So it's those practical things that I think that when we feel overwhelmed, what are the small little things that I can do in the day? The end of the day, say one thing that you're really grateful for that's happened in that day. That can completely shift how you felt about your day. It could just be that it's really cold outside and I'm sitting here under a blanket and I'm really warm and I've had a beautiful meal. Do you know, like it doesn't need to be complicated. I think that that's where we get a little bit overwhelmed when we're trying to be mentally healthy and have our well-being in check. Just start with one thing, nail it, and then put something else into your day.
Love that. What you present there is a series of pattern breaks,
Yeah,
where, you're just going through the humdrum of your day, but then you punctuate it with, stops here and there. Like you mentioned, just that little walk while you're waiting for the kettle to
yeah,
boil. Or one that I heard from a previous speaker in the episode say, especially if you're working from home, maybe walk around the block, and actually do the act of walking into your office instead of you just
yeah,
rolling out of bed and stepping to wherever your computer is at that particular
yeah,
time. You know what I mean? So many people don't have that pattern break within their daily routine, which then
yes,
just gets them to start morphing into just one long day, and without any of these breaks and things like that. So
absolutely.
what would be the best way that maybe people can actually get started, working with you and finding out more of how you can be of help to them?
So if they go onto my website, there is you can book in a chat with me. So it's just a free 30-minute chat. And so they can just book some time in my diary and we can have a conversation. They can explore my website. They can explore my social media. I've got, I put a lot of, like, it's Monday today. So I put some affirmations on social media on a Monday of various different things. You can sign up to my newsletter. So my newsletter has always got interesting things in it. And if you sign up to my newsletter, then you get my blogs as well. But you can also just go onto the website and read the blog. So there's a fair few ways. But if they want to talk to me personally, then they can easily just book in a 30-minute chat with me.
Absolutely. And I quite like this pattern break because, indulge me for a little bit here, Megan, and I will put all those details in the show notes. When where I grew up, I'm from Zimbabwe, and we obviously, if I can paint a picture for you, in the West, everybody just maybe goes from kindergarten. You're born, you go from kindergarten to grade school, high school, then maybe go to university, get married, get kids, get a promotion, maybe get a disease, and then you die. And there's not that many pattern breaks that are happening. Everything is in order. I went to Sydney this weekend. The plane came at a time that it said it was going to come. It arrived at the time that it was going to come. Everything was just, oh, okay, so that's fine. The Uber told me it was going to be 5 minutes, and it was there in 4 minutes. And there was no time for me to, to panic at all, because everything is just in order and it's supposed to be where it's supposed to be. Whereas in life, we had moments where we went into fight or flight and had to actually experience and go through, some emotions, which then got us to be mindful of our environment, looking around and, figuring out that things safe or whatever. Do you think this is why we're having so many of these mental health challenges, because our brain is not stimulated enough, and when small things, just go off kilter, or people just now have a very unique response because that's just a response that would have happened in other ways?
I think that mental health issues can be stemmed from our brain being too active.
Okay.
So I don't think people are able to be bored anymore. And actually, being bored is a good thing. Because if you're bored, your brain isn't processing anything. Your brain is having a break. It's stopped. And so that's where meditation and breathing helps, because if you take a conscious breath, and what I mean about a conscious breath is consciously thinking, like I'm breathing in and then I'm breathing out, your brain, you actually can't think of anything else if you're taking a conscious breath, because you're thinking I'm breathing, and then your brain, there's nothing else that can come into it. So taking a conscious breath is actually quite good because it gives your brain a break. But I actually think that there's too much, like our expectations are incredible. Like maybe your Uber could have been 10 minutes late because there was a horrific accident on the motorway and someone died, and they were delayed. But people get so out of completely crazy about that. But it's like, but can you take the bigger picture? Like, actually take the bigger picture. Why was the Uber driver late? Because of this. I mean, that's a very dramatic example, but I think it's a good example because it puts it into context. I'm just this one little person in a huge world that has, do we have 8 or 9 billion people now on the earth? Like, seriously, I'm not that important. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm serious in the sense that I say that the world doesn't revolve around me. And so if things go wrong, okay, but what can I do about it? Like, I just have to roll with it. And so I think that it's about taking moments and just stopping. Don't be on your phone. I was talking to someone this morning and I said sometimes when I go for a walk, if it's during the day, I often won't have my phone with me, because I'm forced then to not be listening to anything, to not be tempted to make a phone call. I'm literally switched off and I'm with nature. And I'm a tree toucher. I love touching trees. So, I'll be walking along the street touching the trees. But it's those moments where I just don't think that we get enough of that. And I think that can affect your mental health because you constantly need that stimulus. And actually, if you stop, what will happen?
I quite like that. Yeah, because now, like you say, we're just overly stimulated and there's no time for us to be bored. And boredom actually creates creativity so that you can fill out that void. And if that now is taken away from us,
Yeah.
I just watched my kids painting on a screen, and I'm just like, I wish I could just maybe move that from there to the actual practical things, and then we end up fighting, and I lose those battles anyway. So fantastic. You're
Yeah.
talking about kids here. You introduced us, Megan, when we started, to this young, girl who was obviously around six older siblings and things of that nature. And then you started on your journey. If you would maybe look back, what sort of advice would you give, or what sort of words would you give to this young girl who never knew that her life was going to be what it is that we've just experienced in the last, say, 40 minutes when you were getting started?
I would love to tell her to step into her authenticity very early on and don't do things just to try to fit in. That would be the biggest thing, because I started drinking at a very early age because I wanted to feel connected. And then I was a very heavy drinker for a long time. And I've since found out and realized that actually I only started drinking to feel connected with this group. And so, years ago, I wish that I had actually just been, I guess, in my power to be able to say, I can still be connected just as me. I just don't need to drink. So, I mean, that's one example, but it's just more, that, as I said, I turned 50 this year. So there's a lot of time where I've grown and learned, and there's a lot more wisdom in me now. But yeah, I think it would be just be comfortable with who you are from a very early age. You don't need to be different to try to fit in.
Absolutely. What sort of drinks were you drinking? Because I think if it were the spirits kind, now you're just sipping on the spirits of,
Yeah, exactly. I consume spirits, but they're completely different now. I like that. That's really good.
Absolutely. And you did mention you actually stopped drinking so you could be clear. Maybe you could just maybe walk us through what alcohol would be in the way of with what you now experience.
Oh gosh, so I had a very high tolerance for alcohol. So I could easily drink like a whole bottle of vodka or bourbon, and then I could go out and people wouldn't even know that I'd been drinking. Because I built that tolerance up over a long period of time. And so I think it was just me numbing a lot of things that were in my life or I was ignoring. And interestingly, when my mum passed away 10 years ago, and I had stopped drinking 2 years prior to that. I then went into a very dark place, mental health wise. I was making a decision as to whether I wanted to still be here or not. I was in a very black place. And it's very interesting because for me, the not drinking actually took me there because I couldn't drink to mask how I was feeling. So
Wow.
it's interesting that the alcohol had actually taking that away, actually made me go down a hole where I actually needed to really look at where I was, who I was, and what I was doing, and where I needed to be from a mental health point of view and how I need to look after myself. And it was because of the no alcohol that I actually think I got there. Because otherwise, if I was drinking, I would have just kept masking it.
Mm.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Would you reckon? I mean, obviously, to whom much is given, much is required. You literally had to go to that position in order for you to then reclaim and have an understanding of, because the people you're going to be working with and people you're going to be dealing with have probably or are at that particular position, and so you
Yeah.
needed to literally step into that role and then know how, from a
Yeah.
lived experience position, how do you handle it? Because
Yeah, that's that's exactly right. And it's only from the beginning of last year that I started talking about it. So no one, even my siblings, no one knew that 10 years ago I was in that place. And it was only because of the speaking that I was doing with Sam Cawthorn that I did a course with him and that we had to do a 6-minute presentation and I started to talk about this. And so then I had to tell my siblings that actually I'm going to start talking about this. And I mean, they had no idea because I was very good at hiding it. And so I feel blessed that I'm still here, but I actually have a lot of gratitude for having going through that situation, because I guess it just gives me a more deeper understanding of people. It definitely strips away judgment, because even if you haven't experienced something like that, I think that, people who are struggling with their mental health need a lot of love and compassion. And so I'm grateful actually that I can I don't like to use the word understand how someone else is feeling, but I like to be able to say I can relate to how they're feeling, because what I'm feeling about something could be completely different to how you're actually feeling about something. And so I don't want to try to understand it, but I can relate to it. And so I feel like that helps with a conversation as well.
Absolutely. And all I
Mm.
just heard from that is, whatever you're going through in life, be sure to pay attention because one day you'll have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity Show. So thank you so much for that, Megan. I clearly understood that part. But what's next? You told us, we met you at a younger age and we've seen the transformation and now you've got your true north. But what's next for Megan? What are any upcoming projects, events, books? What should we be
Oh,
excited
books, yeah.
about?
So I'm currently guest hosting a TV show in the US at the moment, which is really amazing. So I was the fifth guest on this show last year, and Dawn, who has the show, and I really connected. And she needed to take a step back, and she's moving, and she's got a few other things going on. So she asked me to guest host the show for the next 3 seasons. So we're just coming up to the end of the first season, and I've got it for another 6 months, which is fantastic. So I'm loving that. And I am also just at the end of writing a research paper in relation to mental health and wellbeing, specifically in the IT industry, because that was where predominantly my HR experience was. So I've been collaborating with senior executives and CIOs in the IT space in relation to mental health and wellbeing. So I'm currently finishing off that paper. So I would, hopefully that will create opportunities to speak about it and to run more workshops. I've already got some ideas in relation to the workshops that are coming out of having written this research paper. So I'm doing that. And I've just started to teach Oracle card reading. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm really enjoying doing that. I'm doing it at a local community college, but I'm now thinking that I might do it, offer it online as well, because a lot of people who aren't here in Sydney have said to me that they'd love to do it. So a few things going on, but it's all good. I'm excited about what's happening, and yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Who knows what's in the future?
Absolutely. Well, with the bit that you've highlighted to us, it really does sound like it's going to be an exciting endeavor for those that have now just, gotten to know you and going to be super fans. First of all, you as a person and also the work that you're doing. So I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really lovely.
Absolutely. Now, I'm really appreciative. I mean, obviously, I started off like I told you, starstruck. Now I'm even more. I don't even know what to do with myself today. So, I mean, obviously, your insights into balancing corporate life and wellness, and and also that spirituality side of things, plus, just really putting it out in the open there and bearing it all out is just inspiring to say the least. And I just can't wait to see, where this is gonna go to. So absolutely amazing. And congratulations for finding your own true north. So many people, try so many things and dabble, and then they actually don't necessarily find their thing, but you've found your lane and you're sticking to it. And that's remarkable in and of itself. If people are not going to learn just the whole career side of things or the spiritual side of things, just you finding your way in this whole maze of, having a happier existence, it should be something that books, movies, and everything else should be written about. So thank you so much for leaving this journey so that you, like I said, have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity Show.
Thank you,
All
Prosper.
right. So now to our viewers, I really appreciate you for watching. I know this one was a little bit of a long one, but we had to cover the corporate, the spirituality, and everything else along the way. You can't just do that in a TikTok 5-second video. So thank you so much for bearing with us. And if you want to learn more about Megan's work, be sure to check out the links that we're going to provide in the show notes, and also jump onto our website and see how she is helping others be, do, and have a happier existence. And if this episode actually resonated with you, obviously don't forget to share this with somebody else as well, just in case they might be going through stuff, or they might be finding it hard to deal with their, mental health, their well-being, maybe their career, or they're not understanding their place in society. Maybe something that Megan has to offer could actually be the saving grace that they were waiting for. And of course, I encourage you to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more enlightening conversations like this. Until next time, thank you so much, Megan, and bye for now.